Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. I know that we are gonna be overly pumped for today's video because it's been a minute, 3 weeks to be exact, I think, and life has been obviously crazy. You guys know that the boys were born and there's so much that has happened in like a short couple of weeks, and so I just wanted to like sit down and tell you guys kind of what happened as far as like the birth of them goes and like my labor story basically. I'll also have an actual like birth vlog footage dropping later this week or early next week. It's kind of choppy, it's like just random footage. We did the best that we could getting like a birth vlog with the circumstances and just how fast everything went. I think it's also important to note like that was a time me and Braxton were like sharing together. It's kind of important to feel those things sometimes and not have to worry about like filming and doing, you know, whatever else. So we did take some footage for like us to have as memories and for the boys to look back on, but it wasn't like an overkill of footage, and there's also some like rules at the hospital dealing with video footage, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of wishy-washy. But I will be dropping that video. It does have some good content and I'm excited for you guys just to see like real raw footage of like actual being in labor. So we will be dropping that, like I said, in a couple days, but I just wanted to overall give you guys kind of an update, explain to you like why things happened the way it did, why we went into labor, and I'll give you just like a small update on the boys, and then I'm having a long detailed video on like everything that's gone down with the boys and how they're doing now and just like the challenges that they have ahead of them, and just a better, more detailed update on a separate video. So this one will just be like, this is my labor story and this is how it went down, because it's pretty eventful, I'm not gonna lie. I did want to say like I'm sorry that it's taken us a couple weeks to give you guys an update. I feel guilty just because I know there's so many people invested in our journey and you guys have done so much for us mentally, emotionally, financially. I mean, we've had such an outpour of help and like we just appreciate it so much, but we did have to like take a little bit of time to adjust to this new schedule, kind of understand like what things mean, where our boys are at, and it's really a lot harder than I expected it to be. The NICU journey is very hard already and we're just at the beginning. So I do appreciate you guys like being patient, and I know you guys are always amazing about it, but I never failed to bring it up and just say like thank you for understanding and empathizing with us for sure. So I'm going to get on into this and just kind of start out explaining to you what happened as far as labor and how I figured out I was going into labor. So if you guys have been looking at updates, I went into labor at 27 weeks and 2 days. Basically what happened was on May 5th, we're gonna come back to this later, but May 5th, we were laying down in bed for the night and I got up to go to the bathroom, and I was literally getting up one more time to go to the bathroom before I went to bed, and I noticed I had some bleeding. Like leading up to this, I had like mucus stuff coming out all the time, and the doctors knew about it and they said like it's really common, but it could mean I'm going into labor soon. Here we are. But basically they weren't like concerned about it. I think it wasn't their fault and it wasn't my fault. It was just like something that we kind of overlooked a little bit, which I'll explain in a minute. But basically I started bleeding and my doctor had told me like if you have any sort of blood, you need to immediately come see us, like not even a question. And if you have a lot of blood, then you need to go straight to the hospital that's closest to you guys, because we are an hour away from my specialist team and from the hospital. So basically I wake up Braxton. I had told my mom because she was still awake and she's like, you need to get Braxton up, like you guys need to go. And she came up and was helping us like pack some very basic bags. Like I look back now and it was so funny because I packed like my laptop charger but not my laptop, and then like my camera charger but not my camera. All this random stuff, like I was just panicking and just throwing stuff in a bag, and like Braxton kind of did the same thing. So it was quite the experience for sure. So I wake him up, he's like dazed and confused, and we head to the hospital. We had to stop and get gas. At this time, like literally barely any blood still. Like I was just spotting a little bit, but of course I was like, we need to take it serious because it's obviously important. So I get to the hospital, and at this time I'm in the waiting room just to be like let into the doors. Like there's like a little security entrance where you have to stand there for a second and a nurse comes out and gets you. And by this point I was like, could feel blood just like coming out. I know that's a lot, but it was starting to like kind of stress me out. Like I was like, I feel like something is not right. And we had stopped actually halfway to Kansas City because I had to pee so bad, and Braxton needed like some water and so did I, because we didn't have any drinks. And so we're like, well, we'll just stop really fast, like a 5-minute stop. And at that time, still like barely anything coming out, like it was nothing. So then I go to the hospital, and like I said, I could just like feel it. So I go to the bathroom and the nurse came in with me, and it was like a lot at this point. And then by the time I got back to the room where they were monitoring the babies and they put the monitors on them, it was like coming out of my pants onto the ground, like a lot of blood. So that was very traumatic, and Braxton does not do good with this kind of stuff, and he literally was a champ my whole entire like delivery, our whole hospital stay. Like, he's seriously amazing, literally my rock, and just the sweetest human. Like, I really can't thank him enough for keeping me sane through this whole process. But anyways, he's like, it's okay, and he's like trying to help clean it up, and like, oh my gosh, it was just a mess. And so they hook me up to the monitors, they're looking at the babies, they find all babies. At that point I had a lot of relief because I was worried we lost one of the babies. I've seen it happen too many times, and that was, of course, your mind just kind of travels to worst case scenario. All the babies were good, like they looked good on the monitors. And so at that point they were like, well, we're gonna check to see like if you're in labor, like what's going on. And so I was like, okay. So they bring in the stuff to check me. They check me and figure out that my water is broke, and baby A, that would be Mr. Croy, broke his water, so we thought. And they were like, you're dilated to like a 1, so at this point we're gonna give you blah 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 and try and like prolong your labor. But at this point we knew we were gonna be in the hospital until I delivered, which could have been up to 34 weeks. So it was like 9 weeks or something that I could have been in the hospital, which is like a lot. At this point it was probably like 4 in the morning because we got there at like 1 a.m. because it was so late. I had to get up because the dogs were going insane downstairs. So anyways, it was like 4 in the morning. I get put into like an actual room where they're like monitoring me or whatever, and it's actually like a labor room. So at this point they're just like coming in, checking me every so often or whatever, checking on me, not like checking me, but checking on me. And then they started me on like all sorts of stuff. So I was on like fluids. I started a magnesium drip, which is literally the worst experience of my entire life. I hated it so bad. It basically like makes you feel like you have the flu. Then I was on all sorts of antibiotics, and all of this was trying to like prevent labor, basically like slow down my labor, keep me from like progressing. I keep getting checked during this time. I'm like not kidding you, I was so sick that I couldn't even like hold my phone. Like, I was basically just resting the whole time, and we're just getting like all sorts of stuff like was happening at this point. We're just all over the place, and we really don't know what's going on. We just know we're gonna be there forever. So they come back in, they check me again. I wasn't dilated any further. I was still at a 1, and this was like the next morning. So they were feeling pretty confident that they could like slow down my labor and that maybe like the medication was working. And so they're doing all that, whatever. Well, then we ended up talking to like some NICU doctors because they wanted to make sure like in case or when the babies came that we would have obviously like the understanding of the NICU journey and like what it looked like for us. And they just basically told us like the boys probably won't come home until their due date or close to, which is August 3rd. So we still have obviously a long way to go. But they at that point decided to check me again. Okay, sorry, I had to go pump, so you know, new mom life. Anyways, so I think where I was at in my story is we finally got checked again, and at that point I had started feeling a little bit better, but I was like still just really out of it and really tired. And they had checked me and I was dilated to like a 2 or a 3, and they could see Croy's hair. So it was go time basically at that point, and it all happened like so fast from there. It literally, we went into the C-section like 30 minutes after that. So basically we went in for the C-section. I got a spinal. I literally did not think it was painful at all. It literally felt like a tiny sting. I thought it was a piece of cake. We got that. I actually threw up in the C-section before my spinal because I was so nervous, because people like hyped that up so bad, and it was like, it was easy, it was fine. But then I was like having like convulsions almost, like they laid me down and my arms were like flapping like really bad, and I was like freaking out. I don't know, I guess just like hormonal. Braxton was like stressed out because he was like thinking I wasn't okay, and so I just like tried to close my eyes and was like relaxing, and then Braxton was like, is she asleep? Like he thought they put me to sleep. It was so funny, and I heard him and I was like, no. And then they waited like a couple minutes for that to set in. It set in super fast, and then they were like, you might feel like some tugging and pulling basically, and they started my C-section, and I literally did not feel a thing. And once I knew they were like cutting into me and that I didn't feel it, I was like completely fine. Like I was good at that point. I also used to work in surgery, and I have done C-sections, a lot of C-sections. I've worked a lot of C-sections, so I could hear them like asking for like certain instruments, and I knew what they were. And so it's kind of funny because like I knew what part of my body they were cutting open and like what they were doing. It was wild. So then obviously Croy was born first, and he came out a little bit stressed out, so they actually like took him, and I like literally saw them like run past me, and they had to resuscitate him, and that was freaking scary. And it was crazy because he was like the one that was like doing the best of all of them like my whole pregnancy, and they told me like whenever he came out he would probably be like shocked and like do the worst at first. So Croy was born first, and I think he was born at 9:36, and then the twins were born at 9:37 and 9:39. So Croy came out weighing 1 pound 13 ounces, and then Daxon was next, which was baby C. So Daxon is the one with the stomach issues, and I have learned a lot about all of that, and we've kind of figured out a plan for that, so that'll be in a later video. But he was born second, so that is Daxon. Daxon was actually born 2 pounds and 1 ounce, so he was in there cooking. He was bigger than they thought that he was, which was a good thing for sure. And then Ezra was originally baby B, which was our smallest baby. He was born the smallest. He was born 1 pound 12 ounces, and he is the one that has been struggling honestly the most. He came out doing the best, and then he kind of started like struggling a little bit, so we're being patient with him. You know, he is fighting his own little battle, and I'll talk about that like I said in a later video too. What was crazy was the twins were born in their sacks, which apparently is like a 1 in 80,000 chance. Of course that would happen, and the doctors literally told me that they delivered them in their sacks, and they were holding them, and they were just like in their fluid, like looking up at the doctors and like just kind of turning their heads like, what's going on? And like we're literally awake and just moving around and everything. Like I can't imagine. And they asked Braxton if he wanted to like look down and see, and he was like no, because he was scared. But I think now he's like regrets it, like that he didn't look down and like see, because apparently the doctors were like it was the coolest thing like we've ever seen. So of course our boys continue to beat the odds and do crazy things, and yeah, super cool, super different. So then after my C-section, basically they took me to like a recovery room, and they just like obviously wanted to see how I was doing. I had to stay in there for a couple hours before they would let us go see the boys. So I think we ended up getting to see them at like midnight or 1 in the morning or something. And then at that point they actually discovered that I had an infection, and they think it came from like a UTI that probably explains the mucus. They think that my UTI actually like spread and broke my water. Luckily they had been giving me antibiotics because I was basically septic at that point. I had infection in my blood and it was spreading like through my whole body. I think that they just got like ahead of it luckily, because they had given me antibiotics like I said earlier to stop my labor or try and prevent me from laboring. And so at that point, yeah, it was crazy. It was just crazy. We got switched to like 5 different rooms when we were there. I got poked literally over 30 times with needles just because they kept taking blood and running tests on me to make sure like my infection was gone. I was getting pumped with so many fluids, and in the midst of this I was also like trying to recover from my C-section and learning how to pump, and it was a lot all at once. So I was pumping every 2 hours, every 3 hours during the night. And then my C-section, obviously like the first day of recovery wasn't bad because I was still like kind of numb, but towards like, you know, a full day after at like 9 o'clock that night, I started like really feeling it again, and then it just gradually like, oh, the day like 2 through 5 was like pretty bad, I feel like. And my pain getting up to like go to the bathroom and stuff was so bad, like it was terrible. I was on pain meds for a while. I came home with a prescription for pain meds. I didn't use my whole prescription. I stopped taking them when I felt like I could. I'm very weird about like medication, but I needed it. It was very painful. I kept taking Tylenol and ibuprofen until I want to say maybe 10 days postpartum or something, and then I just quit taking all that too. Today is Tuesday the 25th, so the boys would have been 30 weeks this week, which is crazy to think about. I can't imagine like still being pregnant. Thursday they'll be 3 weeks old, and I will be 3 weeks postpartum, so it's pretty crazy. It's going by really fast. Generally, like speaking, they're doing pretty well, and they're all like fighters. They've all had their own individual like battles that they've had to work through already, but ultimately like they're very strong little tough guys. And I think, you know, we just have to keep the faith and know that they're gonna like pull through and fight through everything that comes their way. I will say, when I was in labor, I was having horrible contractions. Like they had me in tears, and I feel like I have a relatively high pain tolerance. Like I've always just had a pretty high pain tolerance, and they were hurting so bad, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like there's no way that these should be hurting that bad. And even the like nurse and doctors were like confused. Well, later we found out not only like I guess just triplets in general, like multiple pregnancies make your contractions stronger, but also also because I had an infection, it was like not a fun time. All those things basically like contributed to that, and it was literally terrible. We have some footage of me like in contractions. It's great. I'm so thankful for like our doctors and staff and everyone who took care of me, because I honestly had like a pretty stable recovery. Like, it was frustrating because had that infection and I was getting like moved all over the place, but ultimately I was taken care of so well. Like, they were just amazing. They'd come in and check on me all the time and like take my milk down to the NICU. One thing that's really cool is I've been able to give the boys my milk from the time that they've been born until now. I think maybe like at the very beginning they may have had to use donor because I was just getting colostrum, but they have had solely my milk this whole time, which is great. And I'm like learning so much about pumping, so I'm also going to make like a video about how my like pumping journey has been and what it's like trying to pump for multiples, because it's really tough. But I am so thankful for you guys and, you know, just being a part of this journey and doing this with us. I literally cannot believe that the boys are already here. It went by so fast, and the fact that they've already been in the NICU for 3 weeks is crazy. But our staff there's amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see our day in the life vlog that we have coming up. I'm gonna film while we're at the NICU. It's probably gonna drop like next week, so just be patient because it does take a lot of time. I'm pumping every 2 hours right now, and I pump for 30 minutes, so by the time I get done pumping I have to pump again in an hour and a half, and that's not very much time to get stuff done or like accomplish things. So like I said, just be patient because it's a lot, and you know, the NICU experience is a lot. We're going 5 days a week. We're currently spending the weekends there at hotels. We got some amazing donations from friends and just people that don't even know us who have helped to like make this whole thing possible financially for us, because it is really expensive driving and like eating out when we're down there the whole weekend. We did take some groceries and stuff, but it's still like nearly impossible to pack for like a whole weekend of food. So thank you guys also for doing that. We're staying at the hotel Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, so we get to see the boys Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then we drive up on Wednesdays, and then we don't go Tuesdays and Thursdays because Braxton has work, and it gives me 2 days to also like get work done and get caught up. We live an hour away from the NICUs, and our boys are in 2 separate NICUs, so that makes it like even trickier. But like I said, we're doing what we can. We're learning and just kind of adjusting to our new lifestyle. So thank you guys for being patient, and I hope that you guys are excited for more content to come because there's so much that comes into this, and I'm gonna be doing weekly updates now on the boys, telling you kind of like how their weeks have been. So again, just thank you guys so much. We love you, and I will see you in the next video for some content of our labor and delivery story. Bye. I love you guys so much.